Start the recording. And then I think, do you have to make me the owner or something?
Yeah, probably.
Sorry. This is like every single time we do the same. There.
And I think it may have kicked me off of the recording, but Representative, I think you're recording on the cloud, right?
Yes, but I will make sure. Doreen, will you do what you do and make sure we're on Facebook here in a minute?
Lisa, are you on Facebook on your rep account or your campaign account?
My rep.
Okay.
But I'm not there yet. It's thinking. So, Maida, you can go ahead and let people in, even though we're not yet on Facebook, but almost.
I think you have to make me co-host.
Oh, geez. Okay, hold on. This is, we are not, okay.
We usually have our trusty LA Joe doing the Facebook stuff, but he is with family right now. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to figure it out yet.
I was just going to say, by the time we all figure all of this out, we'll be back to in-person offices and and how many times have we had to tell people, oh, sorry, you're muted, even after a year of doing this?
Lisa, you're live, or we are live.
Great.
And Representative,
And yeah, we're recording, so we're good.
I think you still have to make me co-host.
Right, I will. Oh, Rob Fulmer. Oh, this is nice to see all these names. Everyone's coming. Sorry, I'm a little late. I got stuck in traffic. I'm kidding. That was a joke. Great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Reynolds.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all?
Fine, fine.
Great.
I just want to say, I'm one of your constituents here. I'm in District 36. And I just want to say, just before the meeting starts, that I hope you'll, I'd like you to support the Greyhound bus station in Portland, you know, because it doesn't have a Greyhound, they don't have a Greyhound bus station right now, not a proper one. And my organization is called Association of Oregon and Rail Trans Advocates. Wants the city or Metro or the state to buy the station and lease it to Greyhound, so we can use it as an intermodal bus station like it was designed for when it was built with public dollars. That it was meant to be used for not only for Greyhound but for other bus services, like the Amtrak Thruway bus services can use it going to, you know, Eugene and so forth, and out to Seaside.
Great, great. I will, Maida, will we make sure that we follow up with Mr. Jaworski? Thank you so much.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
Thank you for being here. Great. Thank you all. Sorry that we are a few minutes late. My name is Lisa Reynolds, and I am the state representative for Oregon House District 36. And thank you so much for being here tonight for our, I think this is our third official town hall. And we have, our theme tonight is basically around the issue of re-entry, as we're starting to think about more and more people getting vaccinated. And of course, for plans to have kids return to in-person school. It was a little over a year ago. It was actually Friday the 13th was our last full in-person day of school in the year 2020, March 13th. And so I know a lot of us have had kids or family members or patients who have been managing the comprehensive distance learning system that all sorts of school districts have put into place. And today in particular, for the first part of our town hall, we have some special guests from Portland Public Schools. First, we have a Portland Public School parent, Deidre, who has twins who graduated from Bridal Mile and are currently at Robert Gray Middle School. And I really look forward to just hearing your thoughts. I didn't really prepare her for any of this. I invited her. And then, but also from Portland Public Schools, from the administration, we have our deputy superintendent, Dr. Cuellar, who's he's over here for me. He is pretty new to Portland, actually. Well, I guess it's been about 3 years. He came to PPS from Baltimore, and never imagining he would, just be getting his feet wet here in Portland when a pandemic would strike and change his role considerably. And then we have Bridal Mile's principal, Mr. Jerome Townsend, who is the one wearing a tie. And Mr. Townsend came to PPS in the summer of 2020. So I was just talking to him before we got started, how anxious he must feel about seeing what that building's like with more students in it. They have some of the LIPI students, which I forgot what that stands for. You'll have to remind me. There's been about 10 or 11 students in the building with Mr. Townsend and faculty, but I'm sure he's really looking forward to having those halls a little more rambunctious than how they feel right now. I thought I would just start with having Mr. Cuellar just spend a few minutes. I don't want to get too bogged down in details of how we got to where we are, because I will tell you, I spent a lot of time in certain rabbit holes online of many, many different plans of how Portland was going to open their schools, and certainly many, many different models of how things are being done across the state and across the country. But can you lay out a little bit about how you feel about where we are now with our plan for PPS? And then I'd love to hear from Mr. Townsend, what he's most looking forward to and what he's a little bit nervous about. Dr. Cuellar, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And first and foremost, thank you everyone for having me. It's just great to spend the evening with all of you. This absolutely is the burning topic, and it's so hugely critically important. And I think, you're right. I think we've seen, 3 different phases of what happened since March 13th officially hit for us in 2020 is, we saw us, take quick action and pivoting to a comprehensive distance learning platform, which we've been in, for the majority of the year during the pandemic. And then the second phase, you mentioned LIPI and what that stands for, and that stands for limited in-person instruction. And what we recently did was for every single comprehensive school, even some of our charter-based schools as well, every school developed a limited in-person instruction plan that was aiming to get at least a few students back to start getting engaged in a variety of different activities back in school. And Principal Townsend can speak a little bit about LIPI also. His school is one of the first ones to put together a LIPI plan and start to welcome students back. And then now we're in phase 3 as we start to enter hybrid. And we're going to start to see our K-1 students coming back on April 1st. And then on April 19th, looking to welcome back all of our 6th through 12th grade students. And so even though hybrid is not full brick and mortar, it still aims at bringing back a large percentage of students that will be, start to slowly be reacclimated into the instructional environment. For K-5, we're looking at 4 days a week, up to about 2 hours and 15 minutes of daily instruction. And then for 6-12, we're looking at 2 different cohorts across middle and high school, which means that students will be attending either Monday and Tuesday for about 2.5 hours, and then the other group of students on Thursday and Friday for 2.5 hours. And then we're hoping, which will be phase 4, and keeping our fingers crossed that as we enter into the summer space and as we enter into fall, granted that, the health metrics allow it, granted that we are following CDC, OHA, and our health advisory panel's recommendations. I know I heard you mention about, the new variants and some of the unknowns about that. And that's absolutely true. Just because we're in this phase right now and we have opened up vaccinations for all of our teachers and student facing staff, it still doesn't predict some of the unknowns, right? but keeping our fingers crossed and always optimistic. We are excited that, summer programming and fall reentry will hopefully be as close to full in-person instruction as long as the health metrics allow. But that's kind of from the district, overarching, 30,000 foot view. But I would really, really love to hear from Principal Townsend, who's in the work in the day-to-days in kind of what that looks like from a campus level at how we're excited to welcome students back. So I'll turn it over to Principal Townsend.
Great, thank you. Yes, Principal Townsend, I can't wait to hear.
Well, good evening. I think it's late enough to say evening. Good evening, everyone. It is great to be here. As Representative Lisa said, Reynolds said that I am new to Oregon. I just touched down on August 19th of 2020. And I can tell you it has been such an enjoyable and a roller coaster ride for me, if I can be honest, just adjusting, coming from Michigan. But I can tell you this is one beautiful state. My wife and I really, really enjoy getting out and seeing the wonderful things in Oregon, and also just meeting so many new people. I did notice that one of the questions was, what am I most excited about? And I think one of the main things that I'm excited about is just getting to know personally the staff and the students. Just the other day, I was in the building and someone came up to the door, and I opened the door and I said, "Hello, may I help you?" And it was actually one of my staff members that, I couldn't recognize because we had been so much involved in virtual learning and things of that sort. So we have been doing many, many things to try to keep our students and our community engaged and things of that sort as we welcome students back into the building. Again, as we mentioned, the limited in-person instruction, we probably had about 11 students. And there was some criteria that we chose those particular students to come back into the building, but it gave us an opportunity to sort of do a dry run, if you will, of what it would look like in welcoming students back in the building, following all of the ODE guidelines, the Ready Schools, Safe Learners, and of course our guidelines from PPS, putting those things in practice. Directional arrows in the hallway, PPE in every classroom and in our doors. As we enter the building, our visual screenings for our students, making sure we're teaching them and allowing them to practice how we keep safe distancing of 6 feet within the school. Our protocols and procedures of how we use our materials and things of that sort in our restrooms. So it's been a lot of training for the staff and a lot of training for families and students. But overall, it was very, very successful. Students came to the building. They were very excited with smiles on their face. You can see them watching their markers, making sure that they were 6 feet, making sure in the class that they were engaged, but they were not necessarily engaged physically with one another. They were being very mindful of their material. So it's different, but because of the preparation that PPS has put in place and how we were able to get this information out to the families and the staff and training, it made it a whole lot easier. And students were actually really excited about coming into the building. So as this hybrid begins, even though we'll have a few more students, I think that the preparation that took place took over my worries and my concerns. In the beginning, I must be honest, I was a little concerned about just what everything would look like. But I really am appreciative of PPS and our admin and everything that we've done as a district to prepare the staff, to prepare the students, to prepare the families. And I think preparation is what has sort of silenced a lot of that worry. And as we are letting the parents know that we are ready, it is going to be safe. I think many parents are deciding to, yes, opt into that hybrid model. So we're just ready to welcome everybody and get that connection back going. Students talking to other students, getting to meet other people in their classrooms. We've been doing many things as far as virtually, having those community meetings and even meetings just for students where they can just talk to one another. And we have different topics and breakout rooms, but it is nothing like hands-on, being in person and meeting people physically. And that's what our parents have been wanting, our student body has been needing, and we're really excited to be able to provide that opportunity for them coming up very soon.
Great, thank you. Deidre, I'm wondering if I could call on you a minute. Just if you, these are not planted questions. Just as a parent who I know you were really involved when your kids were at Bridal Mile, and now your kids are at Robert Gray in 7th grade, I believe. But in a nutshell, number one, how has the year gone for you all? And are you feeling, how are you feeling about the return to in-person school? We're still about almost a month away for your kids.
Sure. Hello, everybody.
Sorry.
So my kids are actually in 6th grade this year.
Okay, sorry.
This was their entry into middle school, which has been an interesting experience. I also want to say that I think I want to give a shout out to our principal and vice principal at Robert Gray, Lisa Newland and Jeff Waters. I can really see their efforts in keeping the community together. And even though we haven't had a chance to be in person at Robert Gray, I think my kids and I feel a camaraderie with the community already. So I really applaud the teachers and Lisa and Jeff for really a lot of efforts in moving that forward. I will say the start of the year was bumpy for my kids for the virtual platform. I think just trying to navigate 6 different classes. They came from elementary school to 6 different classes in middle school. And so it just took a little while to get going in terms of all the different transitions there were and the homework and how to turn it in. But I feel like once they hit their stride, things have been going pretty smooth. I will preface that by saying my kids are both neurotypical. They both have their own device they can work from. We have good Wi-Fi. Like, I think there's a lot of pieces in place for us that have helped them be successful. And I do think that there's been support from their teachers that has kind of evolved over time. They each have, I feel like, a teacher they've both really connected with, and that's made a difference for them. We've made the choice as a family to enroll them in the hybrid program. We don't know what that will look like just yet, because I understand that we have to see how many kids are going to sign up for that before we know whether they'll be in 1 day or 2 days a week. I think we have another family who we do school with, and so there's going to be some, there's no guarantee that we'll be in their cohort. So there's going to be some changes around that. But I think the opportunity to be in the building, especially as 6th graders who, other than like a welcome to Robert Gray orientation night, have never been in the building.
Yeah.
They've actually never seen Miss Newland in person because she wasn't there when we were there for orientation night. So there's just a lot of new things. I think seeing their teachers in person, getting a chance to be around some peers, even though minimal and even though masked, I think is going to go a long way. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does very much. And I think that, and thank you for saying that you guys made the decision to go back to hybrid, because I do understand, and certainly as I'm a pediatrician, I'm talking to a lot of families about who are choosing not to go back to the hybrid, to continue with comprehensive distance learning. And that does make me wonder, and it's for a variety of reasons. One is there might be some health issues in the home that they're worried about the kids bringing COVID back, that the kids themselves may have health issues, or just a whole other thing. There are some kids, it's a small percentage. It's a small subset, but who actually are thriving in distance learning, whether they have some social anxiety or they've had some other issues where the distance learning has really clicked for them. And I wonder, Dr. Cuellar, if you think that going forward, like say next year, do you envision PPS developing a distance learning model for those families who are seeing some advantages to it?
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. I think it's a very important question. And Deidre, I just first want to also recognize, you're right, Principal Newland's fantastic. Assistant Principal Waters and the entire Robert Gray team, they're fantastic. And I want to recognize all of our amazing leaders and staff and teachers who are really making this happen for our kids and our communities. And I just can't thank them enough, because it's taken a lot of resilience and perseverance and hard work and commitment to all of our kids and communities. But Dr. Reynolds, I think to answer your question specifically, I think yes. I think one of the positives that has come from this is that we've had to pivot, almost instantly from in-person instruction to then, becoming, virtual learning experts. I mean, and that happened really quickly. And the things that we have learned throughout the course of it, specifically not just around remote learning or virtual learning opportunities for kids, but also just around organizational management for us, as executives and as leaders, as principals, as staff, meaning how we can do things a little bit differently, utilizing some of our tech, to where, we can now make ourselves probably more available in the learning environment, as of before we weren't probably able to, and how we do meetings and how we function as an organization. But I think the same applies for children. One of the things I want to say as well is, I know it's so easy to speak to the pandemic from a deficit standpoint and talk about, recovery and talk about learning loss, but I want to make sure that we use the right language around learning acceleration and around all of the myriads of things that our students have picked up during the course of this pandemic. We have seen students, enhance their project-based learning capabilities, and how they're being very, very creative, at home in this environment. Students' resilience and perseverance, the way, we have, the way we've uplifted, various types of social activities, and I think though, it's important to know that we continue to champion, everything that our students, have learned throughout this time and have also built through themselves. But yes, I think moving forward, we want to continue to expand on our virtual platform. We want to make that available even during summer, because we can expand and be able to engage, a much wider student group, if we have remote learning as well as in-person instruction. And I think that's important. We already have a virtual scholars program already in PPS. That's really secondary. That's more geared towards our secondary students, who choose to be able to do more independent, tech-enhanced instruction. But that's a model that has been hugely successful, that we are hoping to continue to expand, and possibly even be able to expand to some of our elementary students who would be able to have some of those, opportunities and possibilities, not just during summer learning, but also during the instructional year. So absolutely, it's definitely something for consideration, because when we come back to school, it can't look the same. School's going to look different, and it has to look different for all the right reasons. And because now, that we have technology at our fingertips, and we almost have a one-to-one platform where every single student is equipped with a technology device, we have to make sure that we continue to be innovative and creative, and we're maximizing, all of our learning tools and resources, so our students get the very most out of it.
Great. Thank you. I mean, one thing I will acknowledge, as I was, digging through what the plans look like, it is fairly minimal in-person instruction starting in April. I think we just have to be honest about that. It's 9 hours a week for the K-5 kids, and about 5 hours a week for the middle schoolers, and about 5.5 hours a week for the high schoolers. And I realize this is just a really tough balancing act. I will tell you, as a pediatrician, I am growing increasingly concerned about the variants, but I'm also pretty happy. We're really lucky that masks really work. And I will say, what I've seen with kids in masks, it's amazing how quickly we've all gotten so used to wearing masks, not only in public, but in private spaces, like in my exam room, in my clinic. I wanted to ask Mr. Townsend, are you particularly worried about anything? Are you feeling pretty optimistic right now? I'm wondering what it's like. This has been a long time coming, a lot of planning, a lot of discussion. and what it's like to be in that building, kind of getting everything ready. Is it excitement? Is it fear? Is it a little bit of both? Are you sleeping well? Are you up at night?
So I would say let's throw it all in the pot and stir it up together, because I've probably experienced some of all of those feelings. However, I think the preparation again is what eases my concern. And to be honest, I was more concerned about the lack of connection that many of our students and families have expressed that they needed. We have found creative ways to ensure that students are meeting with other students, just trying to have some sense of normalcy in these particular times. Our community meetings, we do cross grade level specialist classes. We do cross grade level meetings and things of that sort. We do assemblies virtually, trying to have this particular ways that everybody can come together and connect. We do bingo nights with our students and our families. And I've instituted this year, we have a community meeting at least once a month. And the community is able to ask questions, be involved, sort of get a sense of comfort for those who have choose to go back into this hybrid learning model. I can tell you that we have over 250 students and families who are interested in this hybrid model. And I think again, the preparation that we have made, the training of the staff, the training of the families, letting them know what those processes and procedures will be like in the building is going to help a lot. Of course, there's a little bit of concern about just that, the newness of coming back into the building and having to monitor all of the procedures and things of that sort. But I think that everything that we've done thus far is going to make it a lot easier. So when students come into the building, they will have already an awareness of what it should look like. We've sent out videos and things of that sort, where we will be sending out extra videos to show parents what it's going to look like in the school, how they enter, how they get off the bus, what the procedures are in the classrooms, how to wash their hands, keeping their mask on, why it's so important to be safe. And I think if we hadn't done this job, there would be a lot less parents that would not be interested in the hybrid model. I did read in the chat that someone asked, what would we be doing for those CDL parents? We're going to make sure, and I'm trying my best at even our school, to make sure we have at least one Bridal Mile teacher that is still conducting a quality, comprehensive distance learning model. So we'll be doing it simultaneously, the comprehensive distance learning and the hybrid model. So I think we have gotten the practice of this virtual and the minutes that are required that we give to our students with instruction in small groups and applied learning synchronously and asynchronously. So it's just a little bit of adding to what we've already had the practice of doing throughout the year. So I'm not saying that I'm really, really too worried. I'm just looking at our procedures. But I think after the first week or so, just like starting any school from the beginning, you'll have those little places that you have to address, and then we move on. So these students and our families and our communities have done so well with just adjusting and making changes that are necessary. My hats are off to them. I commend them for all of the changes that they had to make with their families and their jobs and things of that sort. But as Miss Will, I believe, said, we are adjusting, and we're hitting the stride. You know, my inbox was so filled with so many questions and things in the beginning, and sometimes I get no questions. So that's a testament to us really, really adjusting well and doing what we need to do to have a high quality education for our students in our community.
Great. Well, and I know we could talk on and on, but a few questions that have come up. One is, so my kids went to Lincoln, which I think they even had a class in the boiler room. What's going on in terms of ventilation? I think I heard something that there's going to be a HEPA filter system in each classroom now. What are the ventilation upgrades that are being made to make the classrooms more safe in terms of COVID?
A great question, Dr. Reynolds. We've currently deployed over 1,400 air purifiers, and we are also currently right now, getting hundreds more as we speak. And the the absolute push is that we're going to have an air purifier filter in every single classroom and every single space that's going to have students and staff. That's been our guarantee, and that's something that we are going to see through and commit to. It's also very important to note too that every single school is going to either have a nurse or have a school health assistant on campus as well. So based off of what Principal Townsend stated earlier, we do take it very seriously, and we want to make sure that our spaces are absolutely as safe for students and staff, and that we're following all the required health protocols that we have put in place. And so I hope that answers that question specifically about the filtration units.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, yes, that was great to hear a school nurse or a school health assistant on site. Oregon tends to be pretty far behind what is recommended for, number of health folks per student. I also read that you guys will have COVID tests on site. Is that correct? So that if kids become symptomatic, we can do a test on them as we send them home. Is that accurate? Did I read that correctly? Do you know, Dr. Cuellar?
We will have rapid COVID-19 testing for all asymptomatic staff and students. And we're going to be continuing to follow the OHA protocols for contact tracing and isolation as well. It's also important to note that every single school is going to have a symptomatic space located in a building, to be able to address some of those things that we spoke of.
Great. Well, I'm really grateful for your time, Mr. Townsend and Dr. Cuellar, and maybe we'll do a revisit in another 4 to 6 weeks to see how things are going. I would really like that. My kids are actually in college now, so my personal finger's a little bit less on the pulse, but I will tell you, I still see patients on Fridays, and this almost dominates the entire discussion with families, what people are deciding to do, what their concerns are. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all you're doing for the children of Portland. I know these are not easy topics. I know a lot of us, really would love to see kids in school even more, but I am grateful that they're going to get the opportunity. I am definitely seeing the isolation and the mental health consequences of the comprehensive distance learning. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. So thank you so much. And thank you for putting safety first. We're going to change gears. Thank you. I think what I wanted to talk about first, I have Doreen here. I can't see you though. I'm going to go back to gallery for a few minutes. So I have Doreen here, and as you all know, Doreen and I have been doing a variety of town hall events around. We first started a year ago as COVID was closing in on all of us in various different ways, and I wanted Doreen to talk a little bit about what reentry looks like for people. As I've been saying, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I think we have. We're certainly, a lot of us are really excited. A lot of us are pretty nervous. Some of us are vaccinated. Some of us are not. So I just wanted Doreen to take a few minutes on that and to also take questions. And then I will be doing some legislative update things. So take it away, Doreen.
Thank you. So for those of you who I have not met yet, I am a psychologist, and I'm also, like Lisa, or like Representative Reynolds, excuse me, doing a lot of thinking, and actually have a book in press right now about how we will re-enter well post-pandemic, with a chapter focused on children specifically. So in terms of what we're talking about in terms of school children, there are some very unique things, and then there are some overarching things that I think we can all be thinking about in this very unique time. And mostly, I want to talk about 3 things that my research has brought forward that are very particular to this time in history. And the first is that a lot of us, even those of us who have not dealt with social anxiety before, are feeling little hints of social anxiety, that there is a really big shift that's going to happen. We did this very quick change to everything socially isolated and everything via tech. And we created a lot of habits when we did that. We didn't do this with a lot of planning and intention. We just made it work. work and created some habits around it. And so now we're being given this wonderful opportunity to reconsider which of those habits are healthy for us to maintain and which we may need to break. And particularly for children, I'm really strongly encouraging any of you who have children in your life, in whatever variety that may be, nieces, nephews, grandkids, your own children, that you give them ample opportunities to practice between now and when they go back to school. They just have had a year of having, in-person connection being linked with anxiety. And so just any kind of opportunity you can give them to practice talking, mouth to ear, or, if you normally text with those folks, try giving them a call, do a distanced get together if you aren't vaccinated, but practice is going to be a huge issue. Also be aware that while your kids may say they're very excited about going back to school, very likely they also have some anxieties and concerns about those. And because there's this mismatch and everybody's so tired of being in one place, it would be really easy right now for parents to kind of push kids, like throwing them into the pool to teach them how to swim. And we do need to be really aware of that. We do need to ask questions, listen more, seek out information, rather than just kind of saying like, oh, finally it's over and you're going back. And I think that's one of the big things that I'm hearing in talking with children all the way up through high school, is just that they have some pretty strong feelings. They also have some strong feelings about what it will be like to be in the classroom without the help of Google. And without the ability of being kind of distracted. And this is coming up a lot for people I'm talking with, both in high school and university settings. And so some of them are opting for continuous distance learning because they are so anxious about their academic performance. Their habits have become so strong during this time. So if there's any way to have non-shaming conversations about that would be great. And then the final thing that I just want to say for all of us is that we already know that the way in which we used our technology was having a pretty profound effect on us before the pandemic. And that has only intensified now, our dependence and our reliance upon our devices. So I'm encouraging everyone to see this as this beautiful invitation and this wonderful new opportunity to create some new habits and norms around our tech use. We really have an opportunity to stop some things that were getting pretty severe already before the pandemic, based on, decrease in our ability to think critically and deeply. And now, as we're giving this opportunity to open up, let's see it as an opportunity to do some things differently, to leave our phone behind some of the time, to push ourselves to kind of enhance the novelty of experiences that we get, rather than staying only in safe bubbles. So Lisa, I hope that's sort of along the lines of what you were hoping for.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, of course. Well, and I guess I just wanted to ask my friends here, how are you all feeling about things? I mean, we're kind of have our core group here. I have this strangely funny, anxious feeling like, oh my gosh, am I going to go back to feeling like I have to have plans every Saturday night, or that if I'm not having fun on a Friday, and if I'm not out on I'm not like super social butterfly, but I actually have grown to somewhat enjoy the lack of pressure, which it's only self-imposed, to be doing something or to have plans. I'm just curious how you all are feeling, if you want to share that.
I feel okay about it. I mean, there was a lot of positives, like the other woman was saying, a lot of the students, and even such as myself, have been relieved of the anxieties of going to school, and it's, having the teacher spend more time with you. There's been a lot of benefits to Zoom, and, why hurry back, when other states have hurried back before, and all kinds of deaths have caused of it. So, I don't feel there needs to be a rush, get back eventually, but, I don't think it needs to be rushed.
Thank you for sharing that, Simon. And I think for some people, that's going to be the right decision. And of course, this is all in the backdrop of, this horrific year we've had as a country of 500, and I think we're up to 530,000 people who've died of COVID. In Oregon, we're at about 2,300. And as you've heard me say before, our measures that we've taken in Oregon, which have been among the stricter in the nation, including keeping schools closed, has kept our death rate from COVID about a third of the national average. So I think one of the ways that I think about it, and I know that Oregon Health Authority thinks about it, is the measures that we've taken thus far have probably saved 4,000 Oregon lives. I think that's a really good way to look at it. And it's come at a tremendous sacrifice and tremendous burdens for people, especially small business owners. And now we need to, do everything we can to make sure that the economic recovery is aimed at those people who have had to struggle most because of the pandemic. Yes, Cheryl, thank you for sharing that. I mean, and Doreen, you want to address Cheryl's comment?
Oh, it's just so understandable. We have needed to be afraid, and big, strong affective responses they aren't just extinguished overnight. It's going to take some real time and experience for us to feel safe and comfortable again. And so what I'm encouraging people to do is just continuing to find the safest places and taking small risks so that we don't keep reinforcing the fear, but so that we also don't go too quickly. Lisa, I also want to tell you that the most cohesive or the most consistent thing I heard in all of my anecdotal research over the last 2 months was people saying that they fear having to confront all the lies they've told during this time about, oh, I wish we could get together every single weekend, when in reality, they've enjoyed
so much.
Really common.
That is funny. And Judy asked a good question. How will Oregon benefit from COVID relief? I have to admit, I haven't dug into all of that, but I did see something in the paper today. I mean, crazy amount of money coming to Oregon. I can't remember the number. Both in the, I have written about the individual benefits that are coming to Oregonians below a certain income threshold, although the income threshold is fairly high. The one-time payment of $1,400 for basically every man, woman, and child. A lot of folks have already been receiving that. There's a really pretty amazing, the thing that I am probably the most excited about is the child tax credit, which means families earning it's for a married couple earning less than $150,000. So I think that's a pretty high bar, or a single parent earning less than, I think, $110,000. They will be receiving between $250 to $300 per child per month for a year. And this is anticipated to cut child poverty by 1/2. And that, to me, I mean, I get a little choked up thinking about it. I don't think I ever dreamed that was in the cards when I did all that work for Joe Biden. And of course, for the Senate races and in Georgia. But it is really exciting to think, as I said, that we are finally putting to the problem what actually solves poverty, which is giving people money with not huge strings attached, not tied to their employment status, so that they're always having to negotiate in their mind. Does it make sense to go back to work, or will I lose my benefit? This is really the way to do benefits for families with children. There are a lot of other categories of money coming through for folks who are still experiencing unemployment. There's a lot of money coming through to prop up our childcare system, which was in tatters before COVID and just completely blew apart during COVID. And my hope as a legislator, and I promise maybe too strong a word, but what I'm really committed to is making sure that as we see this infusion of federal dollars, that we really think about what this means for infrastructure. So not just bridges and roads, but that is important. But, let's build a childcare infrastructure that lives beyond the couple years of how the federal dollars will be infused in our budget. So I will tell you that a lot of my freshman colleagues, we talk a lot about Oregon's 5-year plan, meaning we're composing it. There isn't one that we know of. How do we really, as I've talked about for a long time, how do we take this tragedy and try to turn it into something where we can maybe start to really address the racial and socioeconomic inequities in our system completely baked into our system and really make things better for every Oregonian. So I think it's potentially a really exciting time. In terms of the pandemic right now, I'm not going to pull, I did make some slides, but I just think there's just not that many of us. Let's just talk. In terms of the pandemic right now, we are at a plateau. So you guys know how I love watching that curve. We were up and now we're coming down. Well, now we're plateaued. Plateaus tend to precede going up. And I don't want to be doom and gloom. I mean, our plateau is pretty low, so that's really awesome. But you know, we need to stay vigilant, even and we need to really, really get as many Oregonians vaccinated as possible. That the vaccine works against variants. The vaccine will protect us from too much of a peak going up, or if we do see an uptick in cases, we really need to make sure that those who are most vulnerable, which are the people over 65 or younger people who have health issues, are getting their vaccine and being protected against that. And thank you for that, Simon. And I just thought I'd give you guys a little legislative update. First of all, it's been really fun. It's been really exciting to be in Salem a little bit more. Those of you who carefully read my newsletter saw that I carried my first bill, which means I actually gave a floor speech. That was pretty exciting. One of my colleagues who was up in the balcony and like taped it or video recorded, whatever, with her phone. It's not video recording. And I'll be putting that up on my YouTube because like my voice is like throughout the chamber. It was a modest but meaningful bill moving a grant program from one agency to another. And I was asked to carry it because it came out of a committee I'm on, which is early childhood. So it was really exciting. Doreen texted me, how was it? Was it exciting? Yes, it was exciting. It'll be super exciting when it's on, when it's the Charleston loophole that I'm carrying, or I'm working right now a bill that Maida has worked very hard on that is showing some really nice promises. A bill I'm working on with Senator Dembro to really put in place a system that will allow for, we're calling it compassionate medical release for our adults in custody. So for people who are imprisoned, there is a system now for early medical release. And and Maida, correct me if I'm wrong, I think like 2 or 3 people have been released in 8 years using this system. And the medical staff who makes recommendations for early medical release are the Department of Corrections medical staff. So this is a bill that would form a separate medical committee that aren't employed by the Department of Corrections. And I think I'm really excited about the work, and I'm working on it with some amazing organizations like Oregon Justice Resource Center and Physicians for Social Responsibility. So that bill has had some really nice momentum in the last few weeks. A lot of my colleagues are really interested in it, and we'll be gathering sponsors. We have public hearings and work sessions scheduled for that. And it's been a real delight and really kind of an honor to work with Senator Dembro, who's been just a real leader on issues around justice reform and the rights of those who are incarcerated. So that's kind of where things go. I have a lot of other things, of course, I'm working on, but that's what's been top of my mind these last few weeks. Yes, Margie.
What is the bill number?
Oh, great question. Is that Maida? Is that I'm really bad with numbers. Oh, she wrote House Bill 3298.
Okay.
And there's also a Senate bill. Redistricting. Thank you, Judy. Judy asked the tough questions, just saying. So as a lot of you may know, every 10 years, and this is a nationwide thing, we redraw the districts. We redraw districts for state representative, state senator, U.S. congressperson. And I think does school board get redrawn too? I know I should know this. I'm not sure if everything up and down anyway. So those are the main things though. traditionally, the way the system goes, and this is written in the Constitution, is that the legislature comes up with a map. But the way they come up with that map is they use census data. And as you guys know, the census is done every 10 years on the like 2010, 2020, 2030. So we did the census in 2020, but because of COVID, usually we get the data back in April, and they're saying we won't get the data back until close to September. And the Constitution, as it's written in Oregon, is that the legislature has to come up with a new map by July 1st, approved by the legislature. That's kind of a big part of what happens in these long sessions every 10 years. Well, we don't have the data to do that by July 1st. And what I've been hearing about our 2020 census data is that it's like really good data. We put a lot of resources and a lot of time into making sure our count is as accurate as humanly possible. So we think it's really important that we use that information. So the legislature is asking the Supreme Court to weigh in on this, and we'll see what happens. Our Secretary of State, Shemia Fagan, is the default person to draw the maps if the legislature cannot agree on a map, and she has until September 1st to do that, traditionally. But again, this year we won't even have the census data back in time for our Secretary of State, Shemia Fagan, to draw a map. So it's a little bit of a mess right now, and there's a lot of different things being floated. The reason why it's important to get it done before the fall is there are elections starting in 2022 for state representative, state senator, and US congressperson. It's predicted that Oregon will get a 6th US congressional seat. So we have 5 US congresspeople right now. And it's predicted that we will get a 6th, although people told me that's been predicted for about 30 years. So I don't think we know for sure whether that's the case. So it feels like a bit of a mess right now. And it feels like there's a lot of time pressure into getting this done. I know that, we would really like for those of us in the legislature would really like for it to be done at the legislative level. We're a bipartisan body. The committee is made up of Democrats and Republicans, and we think that makes more sense and will feel more satisfying to people than asking Secretary of State Shemia Fagan to draw the map. And then Mark is asking about the Sanctuary Promise Bill. And this is a bill that I've been involved with pretty peripherally. I am a sponsor, but it's basically that it strengthens our status as a sanctuary state, and it kind of codifies that local law enforcement cannot aid the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. And Maida said she had a few more things she can say about that. She probably knows a little more about it than I do. Go ahead, Maida. And Mark may know more about it than I do right now.
Thank you for the question, Mark. Our office was in a strategy meeting with Representative Alonso Leon's office on Friday. So the bill is scheduled to have a public hearing on Thursday where Rep. Reynolds will be testifying, and then it has a work session scheduled as well. So we're hopeful that it's going to move forward. There hasn't been much opposition against it. So because it's adding a few more things to our sanctuary state policy, which, as Rep. Reynolds said, is not only that local law enforcement can't get involved with ICE, but this bill would also limit the information that our correctional facilities and jails give for people who are foreign nationals or immigrants if they come into custody. So apparently currently the law says that they can share information on the person even if they aren't quite sure what that information would lead to, and then ICE can use that for different purposes, but this bill would restrict that. So just wanted to add. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that, Mark?
No, I would just say thank you for your support of the bill, and I look forward. I'll be watching your testimony or the meeting, and I would encourage everyone that has an interest in that to provide testimony for the hearing on Thursday.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, great. And how is everyone doing okay in terms of access to vaccines and things going okay on that front? We're happy to, it seems like things have really gotten easier and opened up a little bit more for people in the current category. I will say that is it tomorrow a new group becomes eligible, or is it a week from tomorrow? I think we have, this is so bad. I looked through all, and I have a slide, but I don't want to pull it up right now. I think tomorrow there is the migrant farm workers who are currently in counties where harvests are happening can get vaccinated starting tomorrow. And in counties that have already come close to their goals for vaccinating 65 and older, they can liberalize, they can move on to the next group, which is high risk adults. But yes, Cheryl, yeah, boy. So Cheryl wrote that Oregon is 32nd in the country in terms of our rate of vaccinating. And I will tell you that there are a lot of legislators who have been talking a lot with OHA that especially as, and again, I don't want to be alarmist about these variants, but I know that Dr. Maxine Dexter, who heads up the COVID committee, is concerned about these variants. We just know that the quicker we get to herd immunity, the quicker we get to, especially having our at-risk population vaccinated, the more likely that we will be able to blunt, what I'm saying is that when we plateau, we start going up. So we all feel a lot of urgency to get as many doses in arms as possible. We're doing better. I think we're averaging now 24,000 doses a day, which is really different than even 2 weeks ago. We're at 13 or 14,000 doses a day. So I'm hoping that that percentage goes up and that we don't remain in the bottom third of the states, which is where we are in terms of our vaccine rate. And also in terms of the percent of vaccines that we have, that we've been able to, the time in which we receive a vaccine, we get it into someone's arm. And Simon, you're okay. Simon, we'll reach out to you. And I will just say, it's really interesting. I've talked to Maxine a little bit about the Britain model. We're not going to do this here, but in Britain, because we have, the variants are really high in Britain. They decided to make this decision. This is my wide but shallow. They decided to make the decision to vaccinate more people with just one dose and not worry about the second dose right now, with the understanding that if you go beyond 3 to 4 weeks for your second dose, it's probably okay. And that's what they're finding. And I only bring that up that if there are people struggling to get their second dose, you're probably doing okay with just a first dose. But we feel free to reach out to our office. We are happy to help troubleshoot on this front. Great. Well, really nice to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really grateful for everything. Are you waving, Judy, or do you have a question? You're waving.
No, just saying thanks so much for providing this opportunity. I always learn a lot.
Well, I look forward to, I don't know, we'll have to decide if there's a interest in doing these in person when the time comes. I mean, it certainly is convenient to just go from your kitchen table to the screen. I'm happy to meet in person when the time comes, but maybe we'll have to have a hybrid.
There you go.
Yes, we will have a hybrid town hall. But I do look forward to, being in a park or something this summer with more of you. Thank you so much. Reach out for anything. Email's the best way to reach us. And really nice to see you. Good to see you, Kathy. Thanks for turning on the camera there. But nice to see you all. And thank you so much for being with us.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.